Bună ziua din nou! Acum am fost la Cluj, acum mergem la Timișoara. Îl avem alături de noi pe Didier Balcaen, CEO și cofondator al Speedwell. Când spun că mergem la Timișoara, vom discuta mai mult despre proiectul Speedwell de la Timișoara, Paltim, care a obținut autorizația de construire și demarează. Vom trece acum la engleză. Hello Didier, thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Bogdan. It's always a pleasure to be invited on Dialogul Financiar.
Thank you very much. Didier, what's happening now at Paltim? I saw now that you went forward with the project.
Indeed, we did. After quite a struggle getting the zoning permit, the actual building permit went reasonably fast. So we obtained the building permit for our first residential building, which is a 123 units, which is about 50% of the total residential volume. And we started construction immediately after with the excavation and piling works. And we're scheduled for completion in about a year and a half from now.
Mm-hmm. And have you already sold or pre-sold apartments in the first phase?
We've started sales in autumn last year, and actually in a month's time, we sold over 40%. And in the meantime, we are close to 50% sold.
Mm-hmm. How will Paltim change Timișoara and the area it's being built?
Well, I don't claim that we have the power to change a city. I think Timișoara is a very nice city as it is. And I think we're just bringing the benefits of the city as close as possible to the inhabitants and also the office users of our project. We are at a stone's throw of the old city center. We are at 1 minute from the Central Park. The Bega River is across the city, so we bring back together all the functions like we like to do with Speedwell. And I think that's the strength of the project. And we only get positive comments about the concept. So we're happy that people like it, because in the end, it's for the buyers and the office tenants that we do it.
When are you going to start the office component of the project?
It's still in a permitting stage. It is planned that we have the building permit in summer this year. And we intend to start again, like with the residential, immediately with construction in order to be ready for delivery early 2024.
How big will be the offices?
15,000 square meters.
And you also have 2 historical buildings on the site.
Yes.
When are you going to start restoring them? And what are you going to do with them?
Yep. So Paltim historically was a velvet hat factory. And like we like to do, we did it also in the Record Park in Cluj. We like to retain some of that history inside the project. In this case, we have 2 buildings. There is a villa, an actual monument, for which we received the building permit for refurbishment already last year. And we also started construction already last year. Mm-hmm. So in summer, it will be ready. So it's in quite advanced stage. We are now discussing with tenants to occupy it by then as well. And then really in the heart, we have an old leftover of the actual factory, which we will again strip of all the add-ons that were added to it over the years to bring it back to its natural form. It's a very nice space in like a duplex height, where we want to bring some kind of a community and art center really in the heart of the project.
Like in the Record Park in Cluj, are we going to have co-working spaces? Yes,
we see that it works very well, and it's very much appreciated also by the community living in the project itself. So indeed, we also want to introduce that there.
Mm-hmm. What sort of amenities will be available in Paltim?
Well, the mix that we're envisaging is always the same. So we're looking at the residential inhabitants. So a kindergarten is again on the list. Of course, food, restaurant, coffee corner, if you can, a pharmacy, small community shop, kind of mega image profi. We are still in discussions with all the usual players, but we want to give the mix and the 15-minute walking city, as we like to call it, of what people need on a daily basis, including also a sports club if we can.
Being near the Bega River, will you have some connection to the river?
There are plans made by the city to actually have a quay or a pontoon on that side of the city, which would be connected to a route of ships. So we would like that very much, and we're supporting it. But it's not under our control to actually install it ourselves. But it would be a very nice addition to the project if that would become reality.
How's the market reacting to the new project? Have you sold the apartments faster than in Cluj at the beginning?
Well, in the meantime, I'm happy to say that the team has built up a positive reputation. So when we start a new project, even in a new city, people look around and they look at what we've done so far. And we build up a list of potential buyers even ahead of starting sales. So we've seen that in all the projects, and it was again reconfirmed in Paltim that we have, let's say, call it a bit of a fan club, if I may say, of buyers, both locally and investment buyers, that buy the moment we start sales, because the past has also shown that, in fact, the biggest reduction you can get in buying an apartment is buying it early, because the purchase price at the off-plan stage compared to the completion stage, certainly with the current inflation, is considerable. So it is both an advantage for us to reach a certain pre-sale level as for the buyer to buy at an early stage. And this was confirmed in the large take-up with this, which was again in line with the other ongoing projects.
For the office, do you have any demand from companies? Are there any companies that asked you about office spaces?
There is. We waited quite long to start promoting the project because of the delay in the zoning permit. Because a few months ago, still the whole work from home situation, and when COVID was still in our life, we were considering what to do actually and when to get going. Since we decided to actively start promoting it, we have quite a long list of leads and potential tenants. It seems that our envisaged delivery beginning of 24 is there is quite a gap in the local market and not much coming on the market. So there is demand. Even despite the work from home, we see that the large tech companies prefer to downscale in size, but upscale in the kind of building they are in. And still quite a lot of multinationals and respectable companies in Timișoara are in quite old premises. So the demand is quite high, yes.
Do you see Timișoara as the new Cluj? Because every time we talk about Cluj, we talk that either it's becoming too expensive or not enough projects to cover it. And we have companies that have expanded from Cluj to Timișoara, like Porsche Engineering, for example. They had an office in Cluj. Now they also have one in Timișoara. Do you see an expansion from Cluj to Timișoara of companies?
We do. That's in fact our driver behind all the projects we do. If it's now commercial, like offices, but also in residential, in the end, there needs to be an economic basis for people to work, but also for people to earn money in order to buy an apartment. So we kind of follow or try to predict these movements. And like you mentioned, lots of companies, not only from Cluj, but even from Bucharest and even from Iași lately are moving towards Timișoara. Because in the end, there is still a big war on talent and they're looking for qualified people. And Timișoara seems to be one of the few cities where they still have a sufficient pipeline to source those people.
Every time we talk about developing, a developer also mentions the fact that building materials are becoming more and more expensive. have you secured the materials you need to build Paltim, or at least the first phase of the residential?
Securing is, there is the pricing issue, there is also the availability issue. So even today, if you would like to secure that for your entire project, you can't. Suppliers are limiting what the amount of tons of steel, for instance, they award to one project. So it is today de facto impossible to secure it. So the only thing you can do is secure it from a financial point of view, which is a headache. I'm not hiding that. So the huge hike in construction cost, apart from permitting, is the main issue that all developers are facing today. We also, in all transparency, had this internal discussion the moment we had the building permit. What do we do? Because the fundamentals of Romania are very good, because the effect we see with increasing construction costs are not happening in Romania only, they are happening everywhere. And being from Belgium, we compare to Western Europe, and there we see that some projects are being stopped because people don't have the margin anymore to cover the increase in cost. While in Romania, still the cost of an apartment is still reasonably low. So the room to absorb that additional cost is there. The question is, how long does it take for consumers to accept that this is a new reality, that these are the new prices and they will no longer go down, because they can't. Otherwise, there is no reason anymore to develop. But again, the buyer should also understand that he's still getting a good deal if you would compare to the rest of Europe.
And may I add, on the other hand, I also see that developers are coming on the market with more interesting projects now than they did, I don't know, 5 years ago. Also in Bucharest, but also in major cities across the country.
How would you define interesting?
For example, Record Park in Cluj, we see many new integrated projects that also have residential, office, commercial. They have restaurants, even hotels now. So it's like a mini city, not just a residential project where you have only apartments.
Yep. But for us at Speedwell, it's kind of the genetic material. So it was there from the beginning. It's not a new thing, nor was it pushed by COVID or any other circumstance. The positive thing that we see is that the market is maturing, and people do see the added value of living or working in such a concept. We also see the same, for instance, due to work from home, some of our tenants have looked into subleasing. If you have such a project where you have mixed use, where you have restaurants, sport clubs, all integrated, you have no issue whatsoever to find other tenants, even in more challenging times. So it works from a commercial point of view, but it works commercially because people really like it and see the actual benefit from it. And the main thing and the good thing for us is that the buyers can see it now. So they are also willing to pay a correct amount to be part of a quality development.
Mm-hmm. What about the projects in Bucharest, Miro and the Ivy? Let's start with the office, for example. Are there any spaces left?
For the time being, we have 3,000 square meter left of the total of 23,000 square meter. We are in advanced discussion with a couple of tenants to take up that remaining space. So we're quite happy. We moved our own head office there a couple of weeks ago. So we are in a position to enjoy the space on a daily basis.
Are you going to keep the office building or are you going to sell it?
We do still have an exit strategy. So the aim is to sell the building, either all or partially, also to one of our own affiliated funds. And we also have a yielding fund, which is not only there to buy Speedwell assets, it looks at all assets in the market, but having the quality of Miro, it's indeed one of the potential targets.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a special yield in mind when it comes to selling? 6.5, 6.75?
I prefer not to put any yield on the table, so to say, or on the screen, Luckily, despite increasing interest rates, let's say all over Europe, the exit yields for commercial products in Romania have always remained reasonably high. Where in other countries like Poland and Czech Republic and Hungary, they have decreased. And then when Corona started, they have increased a bit. We've seen quite a flat, stable level in Romania, which again gives some room for decrease. And so we have seen a yield compression also with the latest transactions in the Bucharest market. So we're quite positive that we can beat our business plan, so to say, with the yield we will achieve.
And what about the IAV, because it's nearby Miro?
Yes, the concept of mixed use is also there. And we have Vanessa Shopping Mall, which is obviously not ours, but across the street for the leisure and convenience component. We have Miro, and then just a couple of 100 meters around the corner, it's the Ivy, where the first building is, as we speak, being handed over with the authorities. So we are start signing SPAs in the coming months. And we're over 90% sold out on that first building. So we're looking forward to seeing it come alive. The second building is also, the whole structure is up. It's in advanced stage. And we are at the verge of obtaining the building permit for the third building. So it's moving quite in line with the schedule.
When are we going to see the first building in the future project at Griro? Because a few weeks ago I was having a discussion with some consultants, and they say that projects like IMGB or Griro are too large to be blocked, because you can offer the market a huge expansion and projects that rehabilitate a part of the city.
Yes, I would say it's not the reason that it has a certain size that it should be passed on or not blocked, as you called it. I think as long as the legal terms are met and the project adds value for the community, it should pass on. And if that's now 20 apartments or 2,000, that's not so relevant. But indeed, in Griro, having a very central location, having very good subway connection, being an old dirty spot, a black spot, let's say, in the city, I think both the city, the future users of the project only have a benefit, and obviously us as a developer as well. So, and I have to say on the positive point that thanks to the size, probably, we have managed to have an open communication with the administration on the project, which is, let's say, the main starting point of everything. If the main parties involved cannot talk to come to the best possible product, then it stops there. So the communication is there. Of course, the speed is never as high as we would like, but we're quite positive with the way things are proceeding.
Have you started or even finished the drawing of the project? You know how many meters of office you'll have, how many apartments, how tall will be the buildings?
We are at the verge, let's say, of completing our master plan. We've stepped it up here, given the size and the quality we want to obtain in this project. We've involved also internationally renowned urbanists like Secchi from Italy to really make a one-off project, which will be a landmark for Bucharest. So we envisage roughly now 2,000 apartments, 40,000 square meters of offices, and 10,000 square meters of retail, but spread very all over the city. So with the concept of having a city over the city, here also the functions are split over the plot, so people can walk like in a mini city through the access from one office to the residential to all the amenities. So it looks quite exciting also to us to be involved in this project. So we're looking forward to share the new baby with the world very soon.
This will be your biggest project?
Yes, it
until
is.
now.
Yes, by far.
So through this project, you demonstrate how much faith and how much you trust the local market, the market in Bucharest.
Indeed, as I already mentioned, it's in difficult times like we are facing that you see if fundamentals are right or wrong. And we don't have a financial crisis like we had in 2008, 2009. The fundamentals in the long term for Romania are strong. So there is room for growth in residential. Wages are still growing despite the inflation. You still have a large, reasonably young population. So we do believe in Romania for the long term. We have foreseen a total development span of 12 to 14 years for Griro, just to give you an idea of that we are here to stay for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. When are you going to start? In the next 3 years, 5 years?
It's a cliche, of course, but it will depend on the authorities how cooperative things go. In best case, let's say in 2 years from now, we should have a zoning permit. So beginning of 24. So hopefully even still in the year 24, end of 24, we would like to start construction to deliver probably early 26, the first building, which would consist immediately of the mix retail, office and residential. And so in every phase we do, we want to also keep offering that mix.
So each phase will have these three components, residential, office and retail?
The first phase for sure. The first phase, immediately we want to offer the three components with sufficient common areas to really show the quality of the project. And as we move further on, the focus will be slightly more on residential than on the commercial functions. But we don't want to make it purely residential in the other phases. It will remain mixed use all over. Because again, we don't want within the same project also people to commute, let's say, between residential. We want to integrate some co-working, some community shops, kindergartens throughout the project.
Can you do something similar to Paltim or Record Park?
Well, currently the plot is like 90% covered with buildings, some of them quite nice, we have to say. Between looking nice and making something practical, it's another thing. But we are actually in the master plan integrating quite a lot of the existing buildings to again relate to the historical industrial heritage.
So you're not going to demolish everything?
Nope.
But that means you will have high prices there.
We have to be smart in how we integrate things and what we do with what we do believe in the end. Okay, we're not a non-profit organization, and the bottom line has to work. But we've also seen in Paltim, in Record Park, that by adding this heritage, this historical touch, it adds value to the project and it repays itself. So there is a balance to be found, like in everything in life, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the costs should explode. It's manageable.
Are you still looking for other plots in Bucharest or other cities to buy plots of land?
We are, given the current and still ongoing difficulties with permits in Bucharest, a bit hesitant, to be very honest. If the next plot will still be in Bucharest, but we are still actively looking in other cities as well.
Also in Cluj or Timișoara, or do you also consider entering in other new cities of Romania?
Yes, we are looking at all usual suspects, so apart from Timișoara and Cluj that you already mentioned, Iași, Brașov, Constanța. We are looking at all the options, and further on we still have our Space Plus concept, which we want to roll out quite fast, with the ambition to have 15 stores all over the country. So we're looking at it quite wide. Yeah.
So the first Space Plus is in Bucharest, in Northern part, if I'm not mistaken.
In the western part.
In the western part. Where is going to be the second?
Well, we would first like to dominate Bucharest. So we are looking at having 3 or 4 in the next 2 years in Bucharest to cover the Bucharest market, and in parallel start purchasing lands in Cluj, Timișoara, and all the other main regional cities.
I understand. Okay, thank you very much, Didier, for the interview.
Thank you, Bogdan. See you soon.
See you soon, of course. Thank you very much once again. Mulțumesc și telespectatorilor noștri și vă doresc o zi bună în continuare. La revedere!
Știu ce spun. Media este din nou sub asalt.
Jurnaliștii sunt intimidați de autorități.
Nu mai suntem jurnaliști, nu, dacă suntem până la moarte.
Știu ce te interesează. Mai multe femei, mai mulți bani. Partidele care promovează femeile să primească buget dublu, să fie egalitate în toate.
Putem fi capabili să facem aceleași joburi.
Știu cum să te fac curios.
Invazie extraterestră.
Inginerii de la NASA vor să transmită imagini despre planeta noastră. Asta ne mai lipsea.
Extraterestrii ăștia nu-i găsești așa mișună pe aici prin jur, știi?
Știu cum să te emoționezi. Așa arată căsătoriile în timp de război. În Ucraina, iubirea a învins. Nu știu nici unii, nici alții cât mai au de trăit.
Știu să conving.
Vin tramvaiele într-o lună. Vestea proastă e că nu încap la peron.
Aceste linii de tramvai sunt praf.
322 de oameni ar putea merge cu ele.
Alex, nu poți să mă convingi, România nu poate să susțină asta.
Știu să câștig.
Sunteți la egalitate.
Așa ceva.
Știu, deci știi.